Last Friday, after the red carpet showing of the Red Pill movie, there was a Q&A for the audience. I was involved, along with director Cassie J., Karen Strawn, several other men's advocates, and none other than Michael Kimmel. It was a brief affair and pretty intense at points. For me personally, it was also a bit comical and, well, fun. I'll explain why coming up next on An Ear for Men. Hello everyone, Paul here again for An Ear for Men. As you know by now, Cassie J's movie, The Red Pill, has already created a watershed moment in the history of advocacy for men's and boys' issues. As I promised in my last video, my talk today is an analysis of what happened there, and in particular for me, why I found it so damn funny. To get this, I want to start with the end, when Michael Kimmel grabbed a taxi and left the area so fast you'd think he was running through a gauntlet of cameras with a raincoat over his head to hide his face. And it is hard to blame him. First, part of the film had the audience laughing at him while he was in the theater with them. You know, not really what you want to see on red carpet night. But it didn't end there. Not satisfied with the movie directly exposing his disingenuous form of buffoonery, he had to pour salt in his own wounds during the Q&A. I didn't take notes or record, so I can't quote him verbatim, but it was filmed by Jaybird Productions, and as I understand it, it'll be online in the days ahead. To paraphrase the events, Michael, true to form, engaged in some mild filibustering to make his case for himself. Now, I have to issue a warning here. If you have food in your mouth or are sipping on a drink, please pause the screen till you've turned your face away from the monitor. Are you ready? Good. Michael's case, in a nutshell, was that he was on our side. He cares deeply about the issues facing men and boys. And of course, while he delivered that message with the shop-worn bit of patriarchy hurts men too bullshit, he was literally gushing about how aware he was that men got a raw deal in family courts. All this he was saying to an audience who had just witnessed him comparing men's advocates to the white nationalist movement. At this point, I couldn't resist. The National Organization of Men Against Sexism, or NOMAS, which you will see in the linked wiki profile on Michael Kimmel, lists him as a national spokesperson. NOMAS has called fathers' rights groups nothing more than an abuser's lobby, claiming that the only reason that men wanted more access to their children was so that they could abuse them. That comes directly from an article by disbarred attorney Barry Goldstein on the NOMAS site. Goldstein lost his law license for fabricating evidence and lying to a court in a domestic violence case, but I digress. Anyway, Kimmel's response to my challenge to clean up his own house was, and I am quoting him here, "That's not my house." Well, yes, it is Michael Kimmel's house. He was just lying. While I don't find him on the membership board now, he certainly was when Goldstein's attempt to assassinate the character of grieving fathers was first published, and he was silent about it. After all, these are his peers. They always have been, and they have worked actively to undermine alienated fathers for decades. Just as Kimmel and crew have worked to demonize any academic efforts to study men and boys that do not fall in line with the same hateful feminist agenda that attacks fathers. As I recall, the next memorable part of the Q&A was Karen Strawn, who was just fantastic in the movie, by the way. She was trying to get Kimmel to answer the question, what does toxic masculinity mean to an 8-year-old? It was one of the few times that the mendacious Kimmel, and this time wisely, opted for silence. He eventually pivoted, then tried to turn his crowing into a commercial for the movie he helped produce, The Mask You Live In, touting it as a piece of good filmmaking that demonstrated his brand of compassion for men and boys. That was, at least possibly, the second lie. The only thing that may be more redeemable about this one, though, is that there's a possibility, however remote, that Kimmel actually believes what he's saying. He may actually believe that shaming masculinity, teaching boys to emulate girls, glorifying what he erroneously thinks are feminine values over masculine values, and making men out to be a class of default rapists and abusers is helping men and boys. Take that back. He was just lying again, just as he has throughout his entire disgusting career. I've seen the mask you live in, and apparently some of the Red Pill movie audience had too. They were groaning while he tried to spin the entire event into one more lame session about how something as hateful and bigoted as feminism could possibly be an asset to millions of men and boys who are the targets of feminist abuses. Now, I've heard from more than one source that at the very least they gave Kimmel credit for being willing to take the stage and face the audience after the movie was shown. Sort of like Anthony Weiner going back on Twitter after, well, you know. I even indulged that for a second. As I recall, when that was brought up during the Q&A, I even offered some mild applause after someone recognized him for that courage. I wish I hadn't. On reflection, it was hardly courage, methinks, that brought Kimmel onto that stage. It was hubris and an absolute disregard for the intelligence of the audience, or, if I'm being generous, proof of how steadfastly deluded the man really is. Kimmel took the stage completely oblivious to the fact that finally he could not grease up and wiggle his way out of the truth staring him in the face like a loaded shotgun. Kimmel comes from a world of Belfort Bax's mock heroics, where fear and mob thinking assure he will be supported and that anyone who dissents will be demonized and silenced. He comes from a place where articles of faith cannot be challenged, where his will and his word are regarded as sacrosanct. He is so complacent and insulated that he does not even notice the absurdity of staffing a board on the study of men with Jane Fonda, Carol Gilligan, Eve Ensler, and Gloria Steinem. It's like comprising a parole board with Klan members, but Michael Kimmel does it with a straight face and a great deal of pride. Well, for a brief, glorious couple of hours on Friday, October 7, 2016, the shoe was finally, painfully, on the other foot for Michael Kimmel. The egg was dripping from his face, from which all smugness had been completely wiped away. One had to wonder just how much that shoe was making him hurt as he made his mad dash for the cab. And that is it for another talk from An Ear for Men. I want to close on a couple of footnotes. One, I have noted the huge number of requests for information on DVD releases and other information on the Red Pill. Sorry to say, I don't have any of that. Naturally, I really want the DVD or download myself, but I don't know when it will be available. I placed a link to the Red Pill Movie Facebook page and website in the low bar. I'm betting those locations are your best bet for what you're looking for. Also, there's another link in the low bar to the National Coalition for Men page, organizing a meet and greet prior to the Los Angeles screening this Friday, October 14th in North Hollywood. As always, folks, I hope you've enjoyed this talk from An Ear for Men, even if you haven't, and see you next time.